This kind of sucks.
Turn off the gas, save the gas, always save the gas. Alright. Alright, so this is the big poopy weld I just did. It'll grind prettier. So yeah, I really kind of formed it kind of around this. I have about a 1/4 inch clearance from the coilover shock. Sorry I didn't show me getting this little side in, but it was a little bit frustrating, and I don't think it was one of my best moments. So yeah, did a bunch of little tacky welds, you know, squeezing with channel locks, going all the way down, and it's all tacked together and it's holding, and it's a great start for enclosing that engine mount. Mostly done. I'm going to linish off some of the gobby stuff and come back again and touch it up. Yeah, and on this side over here, I'm tempted to just clean off these tacks because it's all welded in the back corner behind us, and break out the little hen rub oxyacetylene and just fusion weld this front edge. So yeah, it's slowly coming together. Okay, next day. This is what we're doing. We're making a template for the to close in these sides. Now, again, I'm just putting this out there for anyone that wants to make it a little bit easier on themselves. These plastic transparencies, you know, sometimes you get this stuff in just even in your packaging. It's like anyway, just using some magnets to hold it onto the edge. It's about the easiest damn thing in the world to just simply trace the pattern that you want to make. You're not fighting with cardboard, you're not trying to jam it up against something to try and get the imprint. You know, it's a flat piece of plastic that doesn't stretch, so a lot like metal in that if you're trying to figure out if something is going to conform to the space that you're trying to create, you can just by even just having the magnets hold it gently in place, you can feel and get a sense of how the metal needs to curve. You know, this is an arch here, and it kind of goes kind of flat up on the top, and on the side it kind of turns into like a flat plane, and you can feel kind of the concavity of the plastic right there, and that, you know, you can just put this back into position, you know, or you can just make like a little note of like, you know, concavity right here, you know, an arch around here. It's just so damn easy. So I don't care if anyone uses it. I'm just saying it's something that works for me. Continuing. All right, I showed you sort of an earlier plastic template thing, and then kind of did this one for like the down here, and it's weird because it's a round arch here, it goes to a flat zone right here, and because I'm still learning on my substitute teacher who's being very forgiving and patient with me, as are all of you, this is what I came up with. These are both 16 millimeter. This might be a little bit heavier duty than 16 millimeter. Feels like it bending wise, but this guy fits up there, and this one fits down below it right there. And I'm tempted to do some sort of arched gusset here. You know, you have to have clearance to undo the brake hose at the union if you need to do some service. But yeah, so, you know, and just a little, this would kind of also kind of shroud everything too. Yeah, and also, you know, if the wheel turned in, you don't want it catching on an edge of anything. If there was like an arch here, that would just provide a nice continuous plane where the tire could just rub that and not really catch on anything. Clang, clang. So yeah, this took me all day because I'm learning. say it's mostly a pretty good fusion weld all the way around. Undercoating is flammable at high temperatures, so that happened, but oh well. Gonna need to paint under there anyway. So pretty much at this point, I think, well, let's, is that all the way back? We can call this side of the engine mount stuff pretty much done. I guess maybe I need to dress some of these MIG welds. I double welded on the other side of, I welded first on that side, and then I followed up by going over the seams on this side. And yeah, I think it's pretty solid. Just do a little bit of scrapey scrape, maybe a little bit of sandy sand with the disc sander, and spray some paint on it. And maybe try to finish boxing up that side with the sheet metal, or I could just leave it. I really want to put the engine in to see where I'm at with, there's a mount on the bottom of the engine at the back, underneath, just kind of close to the firewall. And I'd really like to get that knocked out. Being patient sucks. It's all right. I'll make a decision here in a little bit. Yeah, it's almost a minute of shaking this. How long are you supposed to do it, right? Anyway, so yeah, I'm pretty much done with all this welding here. It's I dig it. It's pretty bomber solid. One of the things I have learned is when you do weld something, shortly after you weld it, throw some primer and paint on it, because welding does, I mean, when it heats up, it's like, you know, it's like your skin. It opens up the pores of everything, and it's like, hey, moisture, if you're in the air, come on in, let's have a party. So, you know, we're gonna throw a little bit of that in there. This is all fairly heavy metal, so you know I'm not terrified of it completely, you know, rusting away in a day. But neither am I going to be so precious about it and arrogant as to think that this little rusty Fiat, you know, even with the engine conversion in it, is going to be some sort of monument to car building. You know, I'm not going to be looking back on this, you know, 20 years from now and going, Christopher Rink, he was a visionary. No, I'm a hack. I'm a goofball. You know, I'm looking forward to this car coming back to life and being a fun, reliable, you know, lightweight little scoot. If someone else wants to buy it, they better not live in a snowy area where they salt the roads, because this one would probably last about maybe a month. But yeah, driving around in dry areas, I think it'll be a hell of a lot of entertainment. So yeah, I'm going to continue prepping up the inside of this for some paint. It's a little bit harder to get out all the crevices in there. So yeah, I'm not going to take you with me. It's kind of long. All right. And here's that. So, yeah, it's painted. I didn't use the most expensive spray paint I had. Alright, take a little bit closer look. And zoom that out. Okay. So, yeah. It's in, it's solid, and it's protected with some primer and paint. On this side, gosh. And you know, like I said before, I still might put a little web gusset around the bottom to further reduce any stress risers in the corners and stuff like that. You know, I don't know. I don't know if it's absolutely necessary, but you know, I might do something like that. So yeah. I guess I can pop in the shock, the coilover, and we can see how close everything is in here. Okay, so coilover in place, and yeah, I don't know what that looks like to you guys, but to me that looks like clearance of anywhere from 1/4 inch to 3/16 ish. Suspension is pretty much at full droop of how everything is set up. So when this suspension compresses, everything is going to move away. The shock or the coilover is going to move away from this this little metal enclosure. But yeah, so that was my obstacle. Alright, this is the front of the car. Just gonna share with you, I spent a little bit of time beating this feller sort of back into shape. It was creased. There was like a little double crease coming into a point here, and I had to use a little bit of propane torch to encourage that to mostly come out. It's all very really difficult to kind of visualize, and that's what I guess doing so much of this is visualizing. Yeah, there's a sharp crease going down through here, and I was able to get that most of the way out. So yeah, this what we have here is, I guess they tried to pull it with some sort of chain or something like that, and just kind of basically ripped this front part of the fender off and made a nice crinkly pile of junk out of that. Yeah, I've can see that either. Yeah, it kind of goes all the way up inside. So I sort of made this little strap that attached to where the bumper end attached onto, and I basically put my foot through that and hammered from the inside. It's all just part of learning more body work, but yeah, so we'll see how that comes out also. Okay, so as I trip over stuff, got a bunch of tools out, and I was able to get a lot of this shape back into sort of the correct shape and arrangement. Yeah, just the paint on it, I just spritzed it with some primer and white paint. Rattle can, just to protect it, because there was a lot of chipped paint, and some of the exposed metal was starting to get flash rust. And also that contrast between the old white paint and the chipped away paint, you can't even really tell what the surface looks like. And it's really impossible to read it, but yeah, so I am actually fairly surprised and gratified by what I was able to achieve. You know, this did take like basically a half a day just to do this little area, but I got out a lot of these really hard creases that were in here. For the most part, I still have some work to do, but really quite pleased with the progress. So yeah, I had to basically, I don't know if you remember in the last shot, there was like a loop of nylon webbing that I was hanging from. This is where the old bumpers edges bolt into. But yeah, I had to basically stand on that with my full weight and use that sledgehammer maul, basically with the handle of it resting on the concrete, and kind of holding on to the other the other long end, and kind of rock it into this area as I was putting my full weight on the strap, and it actually kind of started to pull and open up nicely, and I was very surprised I was able to get it to move. And then it was just constant hammering and dolling after that. So I mean, I'll show you the other side that isn't damaged, and that's nicey. Don't need a tripod in the way, but yeah, it's nice how that fits. And I stared at that many times, trying to search out shapes and forms in this side. So more work to do, but it's getting there, and I'm learning on this substitute teacher. I'm glad I'm not making the learning mistakes on that guy. All right, that's it. Okay, so these are the Fiat 500 brakes that I was utilizing with the Fiat Panda rotors, and yeah, that's where, I mean, just by hand turning the brake rotors on these guys. That's just the only little rub areas. And maybe just kind of a little bit in the similar areas right there. I'm just going to dress them a little bit with a handheld belt sander and see how they run. All right, good morning. The next day, here we are at the other side of the Fiat. And yes, decided to actually finish boxing in this engine mount. So we got another piece of 18 gauge. I'm going to do some plug welds and some seam welding and get this pretty much solid. It's not going to be completely done. I'm not going to finish doing all just the sheet metal work, getting close to it, but it'll be close-ish. Alright, let's do this. Alright, so I'm gonna weld this dealie up right there. Yeah, so here on the protected safe side, it's not as interesting, but the camera is protected. Alright, so yeah, we've got engine mounts in place. I think it's time to get this engine stuck on the mounts. The mounts on the mounts, and the engine on the mounts. Anyway, let's do that. Oh, okay, just got it back on the wheels. I forgot how small this car is when it's on the ground. It's insane. It's just this tiny, cute little thing. Anyway, let's get the engine in. So it looks like in order for me to do this, I cannot do it the Honda way, which means these guide bolts. Okay, so had to pull out the screwed in stud that the factory put in there. That was a little stubborn. Okay, so in order to Alright. Interesting. This is why try to think of everything. Oh, hey, it went in. Whew. Okay, well, jeepers. That was tight. Yeah, it was touch and go whether that engine mount was going to fit into there with the engine right there. So, but it did. It's in. It works. A nice big gappy area for your drive shafts and hopefully an exhaust manifold to go down into. Yeah, that's just, I don't know. I gotta say that's awesome, finally, to get that in there. Hey, okay, so it's freaking in. Oh, I got the little lady baby with me. Zilly, she is lonely, so she's gonna be here maybe with us while I talk about discoveries. So, gotta dip the tea bag, move the tea around. All right. It fits, and it's in pretty good shape. There's clearance in the front for a radiator, which is freaking-tastic. At this point, the water pump pulley is resting on some sheet metal. It's just, I guess, the weight of the engine is heavier in front than in back. There's no exhaust or any other system, and then there's a third engine mount that's down below the steering rack that I need to mount in there, and that'll, I guess, triangulate everything, and it won't rock around or anything like that. But essentially, all I need to do in order to get clearance for this is just like angle the engine back like about that much. I mean, it's barely anything. And there's going to be total clearance. I mean, of course, I could make a little metal fabricated scoop where it's actually contacting. Maybe I could just use a hammer and just kind of clearance it a little bit extra anyway. I might do that just as a little bit of insurance, because when an engine is running on acceleration or deceleration, it's going to rock back and forth, and so I really don't want it hammering itself into the frame at all. So I can rock it back on its two engine mounts right now to sort of figure out the placement of the third engine mount at the firewall. In pursuit of that, I was looking at the oil filter, which is right down there, and it's really close to the sway bar and the front frame member, and it's about like an inch and a quarter away from it. And so what I did, just to check everything, is I just unscrewed the oil filter and saw how much space I had to that I had to have in order to change the oil on this car. So I have like more than, after I pull the engine or oil filter off, there's like 3/4 to a half inch of dead space that I can play with. So I can really tip this guy back a nice amount, and that gives tons of extra clearance for the steering rack. Not that I need it, because it's clearing the steering rack anyway. There's a 1/4 inch of space all around that. Oh, and I measured under the car. You know, I'll take you there and show you. I don't know. This is another little thing that I like to have. You know, had a tape measure that broke its retracting spring, and it was starting to bind up. And we all have it. Sometimes it's nice to just have a small length of flexible tape measure that's not attached to the whole heavy spool, and so you can just kind of easily bend it to get under stuff, and it doesn't take up a lot of space. So yeah, I got 2 feet of this, and I went down and I measured, and at the very lowest point, which is the oil pan, of course, I have 6.5 inches of clearance, and that's, granted, this car has not driven around on the suspension that it's set up on. It's on coilover shocks with threaded adjusters, and I like the stance of it right now. I think it's not too slammed, and it's not kind of up high in the air. It's a good, reasonable, practical, daily driver kind of height, and it's still pretty low. So I have 6.5 inches of clearance. I mean, if I really cared, I could take out another, easily another inch of travel in the suspension and drop it further. So even then, I'm at 5.5 inches of clearance. I'm really happy about that, and I have the engine as absolutely low as possible in the frame, given the restrictions about where I was able to make the engine mounts attached to the Fiat frame, and yeah, I just it was a long push to get to this day of finally hanging the engine in here, and it's just so awesome that it's in finally. And I'm not trying to toot my own horn or anything like that, but it just hasn't been done. Well, I'm sure other engines have been swapped into Fiat 128s and whatnot, but I don't think a Honda Fit engine has, and so I'm just kind of tickled that I figured that out. Zilly really couldn't give a crap. She gets mad at me because I'm out here and Athena's over in her art studio painting, and so she just gets bored and feels kind of lonely, and I feel bad about that, so that's why she's here. Most of the time I'm grinding and doing stuff that I don't want her exposed to anything that could hurt her. But yeah, I think this is going to be just a really fun little car. It's still rusty. I think it's always going to have rust issues, but that's just what it is. But it's going to be a fun little rust bucket. So yeah, the hood of the car, bonnet, whatever. It really is not going to need a tremendous amount of cleansing to clear that, which I think is really cool. So we're low in the chassis, we're light, we're 100 pounds lighter than the Fiat lump. We're right at 100 horsepower. Man. I'm excited. Hey everybody, okay, yeah, I got all dressed up to close out this video. No, I just came back from a little get together with the neighbors. Ray and Shelley threw a wonderful get together. It was so nice to hang out with you and meet more of the neighbors in our little community. Yeah, I'm really happy with how all this has come together, and it's fun. This substitute teacher has been teaching me quite a bit. It's not something that you can actually see, but I threw on the back motor mount down below, and it like literally butts up against the back floor of the firewall. And so it seems like that might be a fairly straightforward thing to assemble on the car. Yeah, I mean, what can I say? I'm having fun. I'm incredibly blessed to be able to spend a little bit of time putting this together and doing this, and I don't know, this is just kind of one of my things that I enjoy. Anyway, I just want to say thank you so much for joining me. Say a shout out to all my friends and family, and I guess everybody. Just, you know, I guess pursue your passions as much as you can, and I guess don't be afraid to share them with people. That's it. Hopefully see you again very shortly. And I've been working on ideas for the Lancia. So hopefully I'll be able to show you something about that in the next episode. Anyway, you guys take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.